And I'm actually kind of annoyed by a lot of the way that people have talked about the Baldwin stuff. First of all, I feel like if your default, everybody hates Alec Baldwin. And I get it. I especially get why gun people hate Alec Baldwin. He's awful in many, many ways. He's got a history of being a complete horrible person and not just on Twitter, but also like the whole stuff with his daughter and just
real life, yeah.
Real life. He's just doesn't seem like a pleasant guy. But I just feel like if your default reaction is like, haha, Alec Baldwin, look at you, and not like, how horrible would it be to have accidentally killed somebody? Like, you're not reflecting yourself very well. Like, that's not cool.
And this also generally coming from the same camp that whenever there is, outside of these kinds of circumstances, an incident involving firearms, they're all like, whoa, let's wait for all the information to come in. There's nuance here, guys.
Well, not only that, they'll look at it and say, well, this almost statistically, this never happens. Yeah. But nobody I'm talking about in this sphere has been willing to say, this is the first time that this has happened in almost 30 years, like on a major set. There are a couple instances of this happening. There's a high school kid, but you can't really count this, right? Because like it's a non-professional set and whatever. Like, look, if you're a high school kid, don't play with guns on film sets. Please don't. It's a terrible, terrible idea. And part of it is, as I was talking about in the other part of the episode, like there are a ton of on-set procedures to avoid this kind of thing happening. But the problem I've had is I've had all these conversations with conservatives over the last week, or as we were filming this or whatever, about, well, if they just took an NRA safety class, or if they just obeyed the rules of the gun range and whatever. The problem is, first of all those people do take those classes. Like, one, that is a major part of any shoot, certainly a major Hollywood production, where you actually have to use guns. Guess what? The actors get a lot of gun training. And not just like your standard safety training, but like really advanced training. If you want to check out like Terran Tactical's YouTube channel, you can watch actors, A-list actors like Alec Baldwin getting gun training. And it is way more complicated and dangerous and interesting and just way more advanced than anything that you'll get if you go down to your local range and take its Saturday afternoon safety course, which I've done, by the way. Like, so I've been through that, and I own guns. Like, I shoot guns. Like, but it drives me insane to watch conservatives talking about this, because they're saying things that I said this on Facebook. They fall into one of two categories. Category one is something that is absolutely a good rule, but which the industry already does, except for in this case, which was not followed, right? And the other category is something that actually just wouldn't work because of the nature of filmmaking. So people talk a lot about, never point a gun at anything you don't wish to destroy. The problem is the actor may not wish to destroy a thing that they're pointing a gun at, but the actor's character does. The actor's character's a bad guy, or they're a good guy pointing a gun at a bad guy, or whatever. Like, there are all sorts of things that we do in movies. We do car crashes, we do explosions, we have people jump off of waterfalls, and we have people in 20-foot deep tanks of water where they literally are on camera without any scuba gear because they're simulating drowning or being in a situation where they could drown. Now, what you do is you have scuba guys off to the side that aren't on camera that are holding tanks of air and will rush in when the shot is over, right? And they'll do that. In the same way, you've got all kinds of rigging people and safety people, stunt crews. Like, there's just a whole bunch of people that are involved in this. And whatever Baldwin meant to do or didn't do or whatever, ultimately, the onus of responsibility on set is the armorer. And I don't know why that's hard for people to grasp, but the thing that's super weird to me about it is that, like, if you didn't have it that way, you'd see a lot more of these accidents. It wouldn't be one in 30 years. It would be many, because you do not want an actor who is busy thinking about 100 other things being blasted by lights, having a director yell at them, having, props people and makeup and hair people and wardrobe people picking at them. You don't want them to be chiefly responsible for that. You want somebody who's dedicated to it to do it.
Right, and the same crowd is always making fun of actors and how stupid they are. So you want those people to be in charge.
I know. I know. Well, it's silly.
Some consistency would be nice.
Well, another piece of consistency that's been driving me nuts this way too is that they're like, well, there's no reason to have any guns that were actually like in guns or any like bullets or anything like that were indistinguishable from real guns. But how many times have you watched a movie and conservatives have been like, look at how stupid that these
that's
guys
not a real
can't.
gun. It's not real technical.
It's not real. It's not. Yeah, I know. So like I go like the trade-off here is any prop that you put on camera has to look real enough to pass as not being fake. But the trade-off with that, the direct cost of that is that the more real it looks, the harder it's going to be for a non-expert to tell the difference. And so if you use a dummy bullet and let's say you show somebody loading a revolver with that dummy bullet, or you point the gun, in such a way that the camera can pick up the revolver, the cylinder rotating into place, you need to see something that looks like a real bullet. And it's probably going to be a real bullet that they've taken the gunpowder out of and probably removed the primer and whatnot. The minute you do that, though, the more realistic that looks, the harder it's going to be for an actor to know the difference. And so if you see, this is where it's killed me with the Baldwin stuff, is because everybody's like, well, if you just check the gun, well, then checked it and found what? A bunch of dummy rounds in it that look exactly the same as the round that had gunpowder? What do you do at that point? Like, there are all kinds of things that you have to do to make this stuff look real. And the irony is, if you don't do that, then gun nuts will lose their minds over how stupid it is. So, like, they're trying to have it both ways, right. And it's kind of driving me nuts. And I say this as somebody who spent a lot of time filmmaking and studying the way we make films, but also as somebody who has guns and cares about this stuff and cares about the Second Amendment.
I mean, obviously, a lot of this is based off of who pulled the
trigger.
trigger.
Yeah. If this was some random person, and well, you can also see this, right? Because so Michael Massey, who was the actor playing opposite Brandon Lee in The Crow, everybody was like, oh, Alec Baldwin's like in the wrong here. But like everybody was like, oh my God, Michael Massey, that's horrible. But nobody knew who he was, right? He was just some random guy. He wasn't like Alec Baldwin, right?
But regardless of how you feel about Alec Baldwin, and dude's a jerk, it is known. But he accidentally killed another human being.
Yeah.
And he's going to have to live with that for the rest of his life. As far as I'm concerned, that is punishment enough for whatever he's done in the past that we know about. So
the problem is you're treating Alec Baldwin like a human being.
How dare you?
Who has feelings. Whereas you should be treating him as like right, you should be treating him as somebody who is just
he's the other.
Evil,
so I can't treat him like a human person.
Yeah.
You know what? Even if he wasn't a human person, I am.
Yeah.
And I'm the one who makes the call about what I do.
It's so weird to me.
And I can be better than they are, so I'm going to be.
Yeah, I just, the consistency thing, but also just not, how do you get to a point where you're like, your whole method of thinking is so driven by your political opinion that you've lost the sight of like a human tragedy. Like that's a weird part to me. And especially because like you would not do the same thing in a school shooting or something like that, right? You would look and you would say, because this is what happens. This is the other thing that's killing me is that like anytime there's a school shooting or something that's not supposed to happen in that regard, there are a whole bunch of people on the left who come in and say, well, if we just had another rule, if you guys just abide, if we wrote another rule, we passed another law, then this wouldn't happen anymore. And conservatives then will tell you, well, Yeah. Clearly, the no guns on school rule wasn't followed to begin with. So why would like passing another law solve this problem? And yet right now I've been bombarded with people who go, well, if we just had more rules on set for the way that people, first of all, they don't even know what the rules are to begin with. They have no idea what the policies are, what the procedures are. And then secondly, like, again, people didn't follow them. So that's not like the problem. If you have people who are not abiding by the rules, then
Right.
How's another rule going to help? They got to follow the ones that exist.
It does. It what's interesting, somewhat. This is pretty much going back to Squid Games, and it was just for entertainment for rich people.
Yeah.
And just the thought of how much danger people put themselves in to entertain people in real life.
That's tons. Yeah.
It's like especially like boxing.
Ooh, boy.
That's not that far from Squid Games.
No. But people are very clear on the risks.
Yeah, that is true.
And I mean, look, you're absolutely right. I mean, and this is part of the Baldwin thing to some extent. Is like, do you want a movie with a gunfight in it? And the answer is clearly, overwhelmingly, that people do.
Yeah,
right. We've been doing it for
the market has spoken on
the market
this.
Bigger the better.
Spoken for 100 years that we've been doing gunfights in movies and TV shows. We've had entire movies and TV shows that are one extended gunfight. I mean, John Wick is 3 movies in a row that is one continuous gunfight.
Soon to be 4.
Soon to be 4 continuous. It's 4 movies that are.
We have real life gunfights that have spawned multiple movies about said gunfight.
Also, that yes, I mean, and TV shows
and TV shows,
because there's all kinds of like high noon kind of stuff out there, and so we have all that. But it's not just gunfights, right? It's like I watched something. It was a trailer for something that's coming out. Gosh, I watched so many trailers because like all the trailers came out at the same time.
Crazy.
And one of the trailers I watched was like actually, it was for Shazam. It was for the new Shazam movie with Zach
I missed that trailer.
Yeah, well, it wasn't really a trailer. It was really just more of a teaser, and it had some behind the scenes stuff. But like one of the first things that it showed was like a stunt driver driving up, and then 2 cars getting launched into the air and flipping over. Which is like, but you never hear about because people have lost their, like people have lost limbs doing stunt work. People have lost their lives doing stunt driving. On the set of The Dark Knight, a stunt driver was killed. The Batmobile, actually, driving the Batmobile, or maybe killed by the Batmobile. I'm not.
Or I think it was the Bat Cycle.
Oh no! Yes, that's correct. And in fact, it was a camera op that was on one of the camera vehicles. Which is, by the way, like that's where the real danger is. Like being a camera op is not a good place to be a lot of the time because you're the one in it.
Yeah.
You gotta be in there. And so but nobody ever goes, well, if we just had more car safety, if people just abided by the rules of the road.
10 and 2.
10 and 2. Everybody 10 and 2. We're like, okay, so 10 and 2 is cool except for Fast and Furious.
That's family.
That's right. But it's the problem, though. You can't do 10 and 2. You can't do like, okay, so it'd be a really bad idea if you strapped yourself to the side of a C-17 and then just hung out on the side of the airplane as it took off. Yeah, that'd be a terrible idea. I don't recommend that anybody do it. Tom Cruise did it.
Yeah.
Tom Cruise hung out the side of the Burj Khalifa or whatever.
Jumped out of the plane.
We've done halo jumps,
yeah,
which are super dangerous. Just for we've done there's multiple movies involving halo jumps. There's multiple movies.
Cameramen jumping out of the same thing. Like what?
Dude, we do this stuff all the time for the sake of creating an exciting, entertaining movie. And what makes something exciting and entertaining quite often is that you would never do it.
The case for Squid Games.
It's not for you. Like you are living vicariously through cinema. I mean, that's always been the case. Like you want to live through it. Like you don't want to be in a gunfight. That's terrible. Nobody wants to be in a gunfight. Not really. It's horrifying.
I got a lot of guys on Facebook being like,
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, if I was in a gunfight, when it hits the fan.
Ugh.
Yeah.
You don't want to be anywhere near there. It's just, that's the thing. Like, we do war movies. We got guys coming in on boats and planes, and we do helicopter crashes, and we try to do all of that as safely as possible, but it's not safe.
It's for the entertainment,
and
for us.
And it's not inherently safe.
No.
So, and that's the thing, but that's why all these surrounding processes matter, right? Like, it's why, you don't have an actor be responsible for the harnesses that they get strapped into when they do
This is silly.
a fall, right? It would be silly. It'd be like, you'd be like, well, that actor checked everything, so clearly we're good. No, you want the trained stunt guy to check everything and make sure that when they're going to fling the actor 50 feet in the air,
It's going to be fine.
it's going to be fine, right? Yeah, the actor should check and maybe pull on some stuff, but I'm not going to trust the actor on that one. I'm going to trust the guy whose whole job all the time is doing that.
Right.